Now, the Wise Collective has welcomed the Pretoria High Court judgment in favour of Norma Mngoma in a matter against the Hawks and her husband, former Cabinet Minister Malusi Gigaba. Now, the organisation says it had written to President Cyril Ramaphosa in August 2020 complaining about the use of state apparatus, the Hawks in particular, in a domestic matter. They say this was abuse of power. To talk to me about this is Wise Africa Director, Advocate Brenda Madumise. Advocate, good evening and thank you very much for your time. Talk to me about your reading of this judgment and what does it say, particularly considering that you did raise this matter earlier last year.
It's an instructive judgment and that is welcomed for a number of reasons. One, sending a strong message to law enforcement agencies that they cannot abuse the power and act on behalf of politicians to act on their instructions and abuse that power. That's the first thing. Second is that this judgment imports the fundamental principles of gender equality and dealing with discrimination on the basis of, and elimination of discrimination on the basis of gender and being a woman. So for us, it's important that the president and together with Minister of Police start to, in earnest, look at the role of the Hawks, because if you look at that judgment, it addresses and deals with the role of the Hawks. The Hawks are not responsible and they've got no mandate in dealing with crimes of domestic violence, right? That responsibility lies squarely with South African Police Service. They had no right to be involved in a domestic matter and in fact, cross borders from Mpumalanga to come into Gauteng to, one, walk into Norma Gigaba's home and harass her, bully her, and arrest her and take away her gadgets and on the pretense that it was a crime that they were addressing and dealing with. So for us is that we cannot continue to have in this country where law enforcement agencies that have got their mandate set out in the law traversing the space that they're not supposed to be traversing, in this case, in the domestic violence. Hawks must deal with serious crimes, must deal with human trafficking, and that should have been left to the South African Police Service to address.
Yeah. The question of the warrant in itself being quite contentious at the moment, and whether or not it was obtained properly or whether a judge did give them the right to conduct this operation that they were busy with. I mean, those are the questions that have come to the fore at this particular point, and how easily the system can be manipulated by those who possibly are politically connected.
No, very true. I mean, if you look at that warrant, and that's why the judge was emphatic and clear in his ruling and judgment that this arrest was unlawful, because if you look at it and go deeper into how the warrant of arrest that we don't think existed, and that the Hawks, when they went to the Hatfield police station, and they're the ones who processed Norma, by the way, right? And literally left with the docket. They left with the docket. So Norma could not be processed for bail, the bail could not be entertained because the Hawks themselves carried the docket. So the police at Hatfield did not know what the charge is all about, but the Hawks themselves, who then decided to leave at some point on Friday early evening, and only to return Saturday afternoon when there was pressure for them to come in and give the docket so that the Hatfield police station can deal with the matter. But they were not willing to share the docket with the Hatfield police station. So it tells you that the warrant that they had was one, non-existent. I mean, and it was used for nefarious purposes, yeah. and they have been outed by the judge in the High Court.
Do you think their actions were calculated? I mean, we know they were unlawful because the judge said they were unlawful generally.
They were calculated. So let's just look at this matter with honesty and pragmatism. If I commit a criminal act and someone lays a charge against me, that charge is laid with the South African Police Service, any police station, and they have got the responsibility to deal and address that matter. In this case, a Hawks unit in Mpumalanga is the one that drives out of Mpumalanga, comes into Gauteng to deal with this matter. So the question is, and it's in our letter to the president, is who gave the instructions to the Hawks in Mpumalanga to cross the border and come and arrest Norma Gigaba? We need to understand, we need to know who did that. And until that question is answered, we'll continue to run around in circles and not truly know exactly what happened in this case and who gave that instruction, because the Hawks in Mpumalanga had no right to be here. If the police wanted to use the expertise of the Hawks, surely they could have used the expertise of the Hawks in Gauteng, not in Mpumalanga. Yeah. So it tells you that maybe Minister Gigaba or former Minister Gigaba had a relationship with the Hawks in Mpumalanga. That's why it was easy to place a call to them for them to assist him and attend to this matter on his behalf.
Yeah. Not only that, I mean, there are other gaps that you're pointing out to. You're saying with a complainant, where did they lodge this complaint with the Hawks? But also, can they produce in writing that complaint? We don't have that also at this particular point in terms of the gaps that are missing in the story.
No, very true. I mean, and that was the point even with the police at Hatfield, because they kept on asking themselves, as the police at Hatfield, where is the docket so that we can charge Norma Mngoma Gigaba, right? Because they have the responsibility. Once the individual, the accused individual is found in their cells, they have got the responsibility to charge that individual. They could not do so because, one, they did not have the docket with them. They did not know what the charge is all about. So for the better part of the weekend, the Friday and Saturday, they could not do anything because the Hawks was in control of this whole case. And that's why the judge found that their actions and the conduct was unlawful and illegal.
Yeah. Now, we are talking about the reinstitution of our institutions, NPA, the Hawks, SIU, and so on and so forth. In fact, the president was even talking about the Fusion Center on Thursday's State of the Nation address, and says we must build on the work that we have already done in the past 3 years to reinvigorate our institutions. Does this revelation set back that kind of development that we have seen, I suppose, in rebuilding those institutions in the last 3 years?
It does set it back because, if we are in a country that is driven largely by your connections and your networks and who you are, then we've got no hope at all in getting justice in this country. Because if the Hawks, the South African Police Service, the courts, the prosecution don't act based on the facts before them and only act because of who you are and who you are close to or you're connected to, then that's the fundamental problem. And this is what has been happening with the Hawks in this case, that they acted not because of anything else, but because of their relationship with the individual that they were trying to assist. We cannot use the state resources to fight our own personal issues and domestic issues. And we will need to emphasize this point. No one is saying that Norma did not do what is claimed to have been done, whether it's that malicious damage to the property or not, right? That responsibility, if the owner of the car believed that the property was maliciously damaged, they would have lodged the claim and the charge at their respective police station. That the Hawks become embroiled in this case leaves much to be desired, and is a travesty to justice And all of us must be worried that law enforcement agencies can be used for our own personal interest.
Advocate Brenda Madumisa, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much for joining us, Director of Wise for Africa.